Patronize is a new game by AEG that comes in this line of small games here. Even though calling it a line is, I don't know, tricky, these games really do not have much in common but for the size of the box. Different designers, different philosophies. What they have in common is that they're pretty small, fairly affordable, and they're usually pretty simple. They tend to be between fillers and slightly meatier games. Patronize is a game for 3 to 5 players. It is basically a trick-taking game where players will play cards whose value may be affected by the trump suit that is being used that round. And this being a little more complex than traditional, typical trick-taking games, there are also rules and abilities and ways in which the cards interact that add more meat to the experience. But the point that is it good meat? Is it good to bite and chew and digest? Let's take a closer look and we'll know. Now let's get one thing straight from the beginning. This is a game that is not very thematic, so the production tries to add some sense of theme, to paint some theme on it by calling things with names that I find complicate explaining the games unnecessarily. Victory points are fame, suits are achievements, no, suits are specialties, cubes are achievements. I'm gonna call things the way they are mechanically because I think we're going to understand each other much better. In this game you have two sets of cards. One are cards that go in the player's hand. This is the value. This is the suit of the card, if any. This is the cube that the card can produce for you, and this is the number of victory points that the card is worth at the end of the game if you have patronized it, if it's part of your pool of cards. Then we have number of cards that players are trying to score. You shuffle these cards together at the beginning of the game and you use a number that is based on number of players. The less players you have, the more cards you have here. Same as above, the number of cards will depend on the number of players. What is interesting though is that no matter the number, players will only and always have a number of cards which is 2 less than the numbers that you have in this deck. For example, with 3 players, you have 7 cards here, and you will have 5 cards in your hand. Each turn you play a card, which means that you have to pass twice to be able to make it to the end. Remember, 5 cards, 7 turns. Each card here represents a turn or a round. At the beginning of each round, you flip the top card face up, and this is the card that now we are trying to grab, to win, to add to our pool. Each player also starts with a black cube, a protection cube, in their play area. So super simple. When it is your turn in the round, your turn to go, you choose a card from your hand and you put it face up on the table. And suppose it's a 3-player game. This is it. It's as simple and quick as that, the part of the turn in which you commit to resources. Now, you can also choose to play your cube. You have only 1 per game that you can commit, and that protects your card. No one can steal it from you right now. And remember, also players may choose to pass. If the 3-player game, if this player has passed, then this would be the situation, but nobody has passed here. So this is what happens instead. Now you determine the winner of that card. The winner of the card is the player with the highest power if that card has no trump suits, because the card may have just a numerical value or may have a trump suit printed on it. So in this case we have 6, 9, and 12. No trump suits are involved in the scoring of this card. Then this player with the highest total scores the card, takes the card, and then also takes his card, and the card produces the cube that, if any, is printed here at the bottom. This player will score this cube here, this yellow cube, and will place it in his play area. So in your play area, you will have cards that you score from there, cubes that you're collecting, and cards that you patronize. And when you effectively patronize a card, you flip it by 90 degrees just to make sure you don't mix it up with other cards that may be there. That is for the winner. The winner grabs the card and usually a cube, but you may also winning without the cube, so you don't get a cube from that card. You may gain a cube from other game effects in this phase. This is for the winner. How about the losers? Losers? Well, the losers that participated to the fight but lost still get something. Actually, they get the cube of the card that they used plus the cube of the player to the left. And also, if there is a trump suit, the player that wins is the player with the highest value within the trump suit. In this case, yes, 8 is higher than 8 is lower than 12, but it matches the trump suit, so this card wins in this case when there are no other trump suits that match, and this is the highest within that value. Had there been a card with the trump suit 2 that had a higher value, then it would have been the other card to win. And if no one had played a trump suit card, even the trump suit is there, then we go back to the basic idea that it simply is the numerical value that matters. So we're talking about the winner. The winner gets a cube and a card. The losers of the fight get a cube for the color that the card generates and a cube from the player to the left. When you say that John is sitting there, then this is the cube that John receives from the bank. Unless the cubes have run out and then you steal them from other players. But usually, early in the game, you get them from the bank. And this player will get purple, and then to the left will also get light blue. Now, how about the players that have passed? This is the tricky thing. The players that have passed now have an option. They do get to do something, even if they didn't play a card in the game. What they can do is to either choose a cube, any one cube from the bank, and add it to their personal pool, or they can choose to steal a card from another player, but it must be a card that has been protected, that is being actively protected by a protection cube. When winners, losers, and passers have taken their stuff, then the cards that they still have in front of themselves are simply turned by 90 degrees and added to their personal pool. Suppose in this case, actually, this player had passed, this card was not protected, this player decides to steal this card. Now, after winner, losers, and passers have grabbed their stuff, as I said, the cards go in the player's personal area. And you repeat the procedure, assigning cards, assigning cubes, and assigning personalities, characters, and then scorecards. So basically, at the end of the game, what you will have in your play area is a collection of characters that you have placed in your area that you are able to either steal from other players or to keep in your area because other players haven't stolen them from you. It will be something like this. Then you will have possibly, hopefully, some of these cards that you managed to score, and you will have some cubes. And this is when you score the final result. These are victory points. So first you have to gather the victory points on these cards, the victory points at the corner of these cards. Then the cubes. A single cube is worth 2 points, a single cube of a color. 2 of the same color are worth 5. And then each additional one is worth 5 more. So 2, total of 5, total of 10, total of 15. And so on and so forth. So it is better in that sense to specialize. But there are also other game effects that may give an advantage if you manage to have many cubes of different colors. Because the other way in which you score is by looking at the abilities of the cards that are in your play area at the end of the game. For example, here, when scoring, if no one has more purple cubes than you, then you score 5 points. In this case, you really want to specialize in that. But look at this one. When scoring, if you have all 4 achievements, there will be all 4 colors, then you score 7 points, which is huge. And again, this is a case where you would really want to have a cube of each color. When scoring, if no one has more red, score 5 points. And when scoring, if you have 4 more protégés, score 3 points. A lot of different cards, a lot of different scoring abilities. The strategy will emerge as you go on, but it's also very hard to keep track of what everybody else has, what they're trying to achieve, to try to steal things from them. There aren't many cards, there aren't many effects, so you can learn them after a while, but as you can see, there are many things that you have to take into consideration. So you gain victory points from 4 sources. These cards, these values, the cubes that you have collected, and abilities. The cards, you go through all of them one by one. There's no scoring board that comes with the game, and I've seen other games, even though this is a very small game, I've seen other games of this size that do have scoring boards. So what we're doing, what we did is simply to use D10s to keep track of the score as you are adding numbers together, because actually you will have to do a little bit of number crunching. It's a little bit of a procedure. Sometimes actually going through everything and making sure you got all the effects right, I would say it takes almost a half of the time that it takes to play a full game. 2/3 playing, 1/3 adding, double checking, making sure, etc., etc. So the scoring part actually does take a while when compared to how quick the overall game is supposed to be, of course. So Patronize, unfortunately, really didn't do it for me or the other people I played it with. Nobody really enjoyed it. It seemed disproportionately complicated and abstract and counterintuitive, as opposed to the experience of gameplay that you receive. Cube here, cube there, make sure that the effects are taken care of. Many more effects than I find desirable in a game that is this small, this short, and plays fast and feels like a filler. Of course, I play games that are much more complex than this. This is why I talked about disproportion, not about huge amounts of complexity. Because at the end, you're playing your card from a set of cards and you're collecting cubes and cards, and that's it. But the intricacies sometimes feel complicated without adding much complexity. I do not know really how much strategy you can develop unless you know of all of the cards that other players have and you take into account all the possible things that they may do. The player is going for that thing, the player is going for that thing. If I play this card and I gain a cube and then I use another effect, I may hinder the other player's opportunity, I may hinder the chances that the player will do this and that, etc., etc. For a game where you basically put a card on the table and then you see what you score, to me that is too much. It's like a bloated system. I definitely had the feeling of complexity for the sake of it. None of these procedures tailored a theme specifically, and that's fine. That abstract games I don't mind, but it's an abstract game in which I saw really no elegance. I saw potential. I like the general idea. It's a little meatier than your classic trick-taking game, but that meat didn't taste all that good. It was pretty hard to chew. It takes a while before you can swallow your bite. And at the end, it still felt abstract. It still, I see the general ideas behind it. Yes, look at what the other players are doing, trying to prevent the strategy, interact with them. But there were just all these little details that you have to keep in mind that even got to the point of causing some analysis paralysis, which I think is deadly for a game that you're supposed to play in 10-15 minutes. And then if you were spending 5 minutes to keep track of the score and to make sure that you added all the numbers, that part to me both is disproportionately long and just takes too much energy, and it shows you that there is just a little bit of excessive complexity. I don't mind about complexity in general, but excessive based on what the game can offer, what the game can give you, what this sort of game is supposed to. Now, I don't know that I'm being unfair to the game, like, well, this game was supposed to be an epic experience, now you're treating it like a filler that tries to be a big Euro game and fails. That was my impression. If this was supposed to be a bigger meteor game and I'm missing it, well, then I am sorry for that. But even in this line of small games, there are games that are more complex than the average filler and do give you more of a reward in terms of how fun and rewarding the experience is. Not here, with Sail to India, which is one that I really like, one of my favorite ones in this collection of games. As a mini civilization game, you have the challenges and the complexities, yes, of a mini civilization game on a smaller, manageable scale. And once you get past seeing the trees, you get to see the forest. Once you get past implementing the mechanics, after a while you start seeing the design behind and the way in which the mechanics interact in a fun way. Here I had the impression that there were many moving parts and I could move them, but I was just doing all the work and I wasn't doing, I wasn't having much of the fun. And then gameplay moved more slowly than I would have desired for a game that takes some 10 minutes to play, so that to me was not good. Patronize, just disappointing to me. If I were to play another game of this kind, with this size physically and I would say scope in terms of the time it plays, then I would play Love Letter any day of the week. I would play Lost Legacy. There's just many other offers for small card games that have more nuances with less complexity, or more nuances with less complications, and that's kind of the point here. So Patronize, I don't know, maybe you'll try it and you'll like it, but I know that I sure did not, and neither did the people in my group.